If they do that, the Cougs will be very, 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 very tough to beat.
Off the window, no. Roberts tried to get it. Shed for the win. Got it.
Just with 14 points, but you just look, the way that he dominated the game was in controlling the pace and making smart decision after decision.
Coleman tries, slammer down.
Go to pizza spot before or after.
The dream is alive for Houston. Go Cougs! Let's go!
Welcome in to another episode of Let's Rage Coogs presented by the Saxenian Family. We're coming off the Big 12 tournament postseason semifinals, the first match of the semifinals in the Big 12 tournament, in which the Houston Cougars will throw it at the table. In my opinion, I think this is their most impressive win of the season, and man, they flipped the switch. I don't know where they found the energy in that second half. The game was tied at 37, and then Houston just left Texas Tech in the dust. They left them in the rearview mirror, no looking back, and Houston ended up winning 82-59. Joining me, Dayon Dunlap and Chris Gardner. How are y'all doing this evening, both of you?
Doing great, man. How you fellas doing?
Oh, I'm doing well. Very impressive win by Houston. Very impressed.
Talk about a Cougs win, another one, number 30. So I'm doing great, man. So, yeah.
Well, let's get into that win. Obviously, the big headline has to start with Juwan Roberts, who injured his right leg. The official word from the team was a shin contusion, which was, I'd imagine, have to be very painful because Juwan Roberts only played 7 minutes in this game, ended up playing in the second half to begin the period, which I think all of us could agree was surprising. And when he was in the second half, you could clearly tell he's being hobbled by that injury. He was limping, kind of trotting a little bit up and down the court. To his credit, and showed his toughness. He still was able to score on a couple of hook shots in the post and really was a calming presence for Houston, even whatever percentage you want to put it. It was 50%, 60%. And he really helped Houston establish their offense early in the second half. But Jamal Shed finished with a double-double, 12 points, 10 assists. LJ Cryer led the team in scoring with 20 points. Emmanuel Sharp had a great shooting night from behind the arc as well. He had 17 points total. And Houston found the way to win. They toughed it out, and they like I said, that's why I think this is the most impressive win of the season for Houston. Like Chris, like you alluded to, win number 30. They are now 30-3 on the season, which is just absurd, an absurd record.
I'll jump in real quick. Emmanuel Sharp, LJ Cryer had good shooting second halves. They didn't make shots in the first half. They had good looks. And that's why Tech got back in the game late in the first half. The Cougs went through a shooting drought. We've seen it enough over the years, but this season especially, the defense will be constant. We can expect that. But that second half is a great example of it. When Emmanuel Sharp and LJ Cryer are knocking down threes, the defense will still be there. Teams are going to have a hell of a time to beat Houston if Houston is shooting like that in the second half. But give Tech credit. They were down in the first half, made a run because the Cougs are making shots. But once LJ was 3 for 10 in the first half. Jamal was 1 for 6, and Emmanuel Sharp was 2 for 5. Second half, 3 for 5 from Emmanuel, 3 for 3 from 3. LJ was 3 for 4 from 3, and Jamal was 2 for 3. That's the difference right there, man. The Cougs make shots. It's going to be very difficult to beat them.
I'm listening to Jamal Shed right now. He just joined the ESPN2 broadcast team, and they just asked him what was the change when they turned it back up after they gave up that long run. He credited the defense. He said the defense ignited their offense, and there were two best shooters, like you just mentioned, Chris, when Emmanuel and LJ started making shots, and it kind of just opened the floor and got them in the rhythm. That's what Jamal just said literally just now. But that's pretty much what I saw. And I think when they're making shots, it opens the floor so much for Jamal Shea. And then when Houston, for the first time we've seen them go 5 guards and the floor is completely spread, when their guards are making shots like that, Emmanuel and LJ, then you got the threat of Jamal being able to drive and get to the free throw line like he did tonight. But then the way that he made his passes on time and on target, which set up a lot of those shots, I mean, deserves a lot of credit. I mean, but when they're making shots, Houston is tough. I mean, because defensively, like Chris just said, the defense is going to be there on any given possession. But when they're making shots together at the same time, him and Emmanuel, I think that's huge. And for me, it made me think about how Emmanuel is the X factor. Like I mentioned, LJ has been really stepped up in a good rhythm over the last month or two. And Emmanuel now taking that next step, I think going into tournament time, if he can keep this up, it's going to be huge.
Big
I
thank you
want
to
to say
Houston
this.
Cougars, Germany. Real
Oh
quickly,
yeah,
Chris.
definitely
He
do
says,
that.
thank you to Let's Rage Coogs. You guys do a great job. We appreciate your efforts. And he wishes he had Star Pizza right now. Great second half. Go Cougs. Go ahead, Chris.
I want to commend Coach Sampson. Early second half, Jamal had a bad pass turnover, and then he fouled a jump shooter. Coach sat him down. It was roughly a 2.1 point game. Didn't sit him down a long time, but Jamal, basically, we need you better than this from you. And once Jamal came back in the game, the Cougs just took off. We saw Jamal as the best point guard in the country. He dictated. He scored a couple points. I think on that 11-0 run, once he came back in the game, he had his fingerprints on 9 of the 11, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But Coach just sat him down for briefly, because he just wasn't Jamal up until that point. But once he came back in the game, he was Jamal shit. He was Maul after that.
To answer John's comment, John Ruggery is asking how many assists Jamal Shed had. He had 10 assists, finished with the double-double, 12 points, 10 assists. The guards, there was a 5-guard lineup during the stretch for Houston in the second half, but the combination of LJ Cryer, Jamal Shed, Malik Wilson, and Emmanuel Sharp, those 4, my goodness, their defense is phenomenal. They can lock down anybody, and they did it today. I know yesterday, Thursday's comments during the broadcast, they brought up how TCU at times, they brought up the Jets analogy that they were seeing ghosts. Mm-hmm. Same thing in this game for Texas Tech. There were multiple times where the Texas Tech players, I don't know where they were throwing it. They were like they were throwing it out of bounds. They were throwing it over the heads of their players, and all that is a testament of credit to Houston's defense, where they make their opponents second guess. They make them think that there's someone over their shoulders. Even simple passes, like I'm talking about passes where they would get a rebound, they'd have a chance to push, and they're throwing it into the first row instead. That's all a testament of Houston's defense and tenacity.
It is. And who was that with that point about Damian? I thought Damian was going to have a big game today.
John Rugger.
I thought so too.
But he picked up bad fouls. But, man, offensively, he had it going. And I'm going to be petty, just briefly. I was like, I hope my fans of LRC are watching what Damian Dunn's doing in this first half. He's getting these buckets. So he's not a waste of space. And some folks are just, oh, he's all hype, all this. You see what he can do when he got it going offensively. But then he picked up some bad fouls. But he kept the Cougs offense afloat. In the second half, the rest of the guys took over.
To his credit, the last couple of games. Oh, no,
go ahead, Andy, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, to the last couple of games, really, the past two certainly, and even going ahead and towards the end of the regular season, Damian Dunn has got off to good starts for Houston offensively scoring. It seems like he's much more in rhythm to begin the games.
Yeah, I agree.
He's not hesitating. That's the key. He's not hesitating. Go ahead, Dan. I'm sorry, man.
No, you hit it. Another thing I was going to say, he isn't hesitating. He's decisive in his shot selection and his shot making. And one of the times when he wasn't is when after he had it going, Coach Sampson called an ISO for him. You can actually hear it on the screen. He said, Damien, get on the elbow. Called the isolation for him, got him right on his spot. And he started thinking too much. He turned around, faced him, had him on the first jab and could have got to where he wanted, made 2 jabs and allowed him to defender to kind of settle in and steal the ball. And that's what Coach Sampson pulled him out. But I think Coach Sampson saw the game as we saw it and was like, hold on, let's go to Damian. And then once he had that indecisive moment, pulled him out. But that was key. And I think that's moments to build on, especially if J1 isn't 100% healthy, which he won't be going through it the rest of the season. And so kind of maybe watching his minutes and picking and choosing when and depending on his availability, I think Damian is going to be even more huge going down the stretch. But he definitely got Houston off started. And like Chris just said, when he's not hesitating and being decisive with his move and quick with it, whether it's to take the shot or go head face and make an immediate attack, I think it serves him best. But I love the way that I saw from him today. And Malik, he had some good plays as well.
And Damian switched jerseys because he had blood on his jersey.
Mm-hmm.
I think when he got a position for the pick up the charge, he got cut on his right elbow, something like that, on that play. And eventually the blood got on his jersey, because he probably wiped the blood on his jersey, to stop it. And then he had to change the jerseys. But at different points in the game, everybody played well, except Juan. But the brief moment in the second half that Juan played, Coach Sampson got the ball to him on the block.
Good on offense, yeah.
He scored. Then he got an assist, and then it just seemed to calm everybody else down. So, Deion and I, we harp on it a few times. Sometimes just need to throw the ball to the post, the low post, to just settle the offense down, draw a double team, and you still get open threes when you kick it back out. So that was the key. Javier Francis, come on, man. Young fella had it going today. He was sensational today.
He's been a beast really since conference started. Since that West Virginia game, he's really had it going since conference. But today, man, he was a monster tonight for sure.
Said a lot. Got a dunk. He picked up 2 loose ball fouls. He was over aggressive in the first half, but you can see him getting more comfortable in his game, more confident as well, and his teammates trust him. I don't put anything past this team, man. I mean, it's going to be hard because of the lack of bodies and everything, but the trust they have amongst themselves and the trust that the staff has in them, it's not many teams. I'm not just saying there's no one. But when the Cougs go 4 guard, 5 guard, there's not too many teams who can compete with that. And if Javier Francis is the one being out of the 4 guard playing like this, man, it's a lot of options in the toolbox for Coach Sampson to play with.
It definitely is, man. And I like what I'm seeing from the guards. I mean, from LJ, he's been in a really good rhythm, playing jump shot falling or not. He's attacking, getting down here, forcing the defense to react. And this they all complement Jamal in each other so well, because Jamal is a pass first player and point guard who really doesn't look to score unless the team needs him to be. And he was getting in such a good rhythm, his mid-range, and with the threat of him getting downhill and the threat of LJ and Emmanuel, especially when they're making shots, they open the floor for them, which in result benefits Jamal because he has more place to operate. And then when you add in the pick and roll threat with Javier, then if you got even Damian, who made some threes and shows capability to make some threes, Malik made a jumper shot. And so whatever the lineups, they all complement each other so well. And with Jamal's decision making and his control, the way that he can control the pace and manipulate the defense, whether to drive and to pass, they have to stay honest. And if they make a mistake and they leave Emmanuel, they leave LJ, they leave anyone, he's going to make the right play at the right time. And oftentimes, if they make the shot, just going to make them tough to beat, because defensively, you're going to have to execute and take the first shot that you get against Houston.
You guys mentioned the 5 guard lineup, like H-Town Big Dobbs brought up. He said when he saw the 5 guard lineup, he said, "Go ahead, Coach Sampson." But I think something that was interesting in the first half, especially when Juwan Roberts went out, it kind of looked like Houston was struggling to find an offensive rhythm. It was a lot of, I would say, passing around, and it really was a lot of outside trying to create the offense, and that was one of the reasons why Texas Tech was able to rally and finish the first half as strongly as they did. In the second half, even when they did go small, you saw an adjustment, and that was even when they had those 5 guards. I mean, they posted up Emmanuel Sharp and Malik Wilson a couple of times, which again, kind of like I mentioned, just a little tweak right there, but finding some way to kind of go in and have the offense go through some type of post action, which was a quick adjustment that Houston made, that Kelvin Sampson made just over the course of this game, which will be interesting to see regardless. I mean, we're seeing some comments are asking about Juwan Roberts. I'm sure we'll bring it up in a second, but regardless of who plays tomorrow, that's something that Houston's definitely, if he is not available, is something you're going to see going down the stretch for tomorrow's game, and even if they have to in the NCAA tournament.
And I want to say this about the shin contusion. On the play, he went over, well, he was helping to try to stop Pop Isaacs on the drive. I couldn't tell if he got kicked in the leg, whatever, but Juan has so much wrapping on his right leg because of the protected knee, and that's the knee that he has the fluid drained, etc. It could have been a simple case of all that wrapping. If he got bumped on it, it made everything tight and caused a bruise. Because he was kind of flexing everything, but John looking at it, and John was trying to mess with it, checking on the knee, and then it went down to the ankle, and it's like, it's too tight, and then they only said it was contusion. That's the best news we could hear. It wasn't knee ligament. It wasn't anything torn, sprained, anything like that. If it's just a contusion, he'll try to go tomorrow. But I trust John Houston. I told the guys in our group chat, I told one of my best friends the same thing. I trust John Houston. He's a shaman. If Juwan can't go tomorrow, he won't play. Don't worry about it. It's not make or break tomorrow. John Houston nor Kelvin Sampson will risk Juwan Roberts' health over tomorrow's game. So I'm putting out there right now. I don't really care about colleagues putting out there tomorrow. Mm-hmm. We're seeing Juwan in warm-ups. I mean, he's going to play. Don't do the same thing that happened last year by Marcus Sasser. If Coach Sampson says today in post-game, Juwan's not going to play tomorrow, that means Juwan will not play tomorrow. Don't worry about he's warming up. Oh, he got off his warm-ups. What did Coach Sampson say? He's not playing tomorrow. Okay, so if he says that, then he won't play. We'll find out.
Yeah, I think maybe letting him try it out in the second half was kind of to see how he feels. Maybe a gauge for tomorrow. Well, let's play a couple minutes here in the second half, see how you feel, see how you can move on it. That way we can go back and watch film, watch you, and let you see how you feel and kind of gauge him from there. But he's so tough and such a big key component to his team and such a leader. I still think regardless of Houston, who they play, whether it's Iowa State or Baylor, they can win the Big 12 championship without him, even though they will miss him and it will be tough. Just like Andy just said, I just trust his team, trust his coaching staff so much and the different ways that they can beat you. I think they can conjure up a way to win one game tomorrow without J1, although he's super important.
Sure, and it goes back to what we always say. It's a one-game thing. For one game tomorrow, the Cougs can beat Iowa State or Baylor without Juwan. If it's one game, it's not a series. This is the 4 out of 7. And then after tomorrow, there are 6 one-game series that the Cougs could have left in their season. And I think us and folks watching us on all the platforms have confidence and faith in Kelvin Sampson to maximize these players to get the most out of them. Whether that results in a win and 6 straight wins, who knows? But they got a shot. We believe that. That's for sure.
Real quickly, I'd like to thank each and every single person that is taking the time out of their Friday evening / Friday night to join us for today's episode of Let's Rage Coogs. Of course, we'd like to say thank you to Steve Saxenian for being the primary sponsor of not only this episode of Let's Rage Coogs, but he has been a sponsor for each and every single men's basketball postgame show throughout the 2023-24 season. Of course, we also like to say thank you to Star Pizza for being a sponsor on today's episode of Let's Rage Coogs with 3 locations across the Houston area. Star Pizza is your go-to stop before or after the game, and be sure to check out every Tuesday at any of their locations all you can eat pizza buffet at any of their various Star Pizza locations. Of course, we also like to say thank you to Vincent Harding for being today's sponsor of the ticker for the video portion of Let's Rage Coogs. Like you see at the bottom, once again, the final score: Houston crushes Texas Tech with a huge second half performance and come out with the 82-59 victory over the Red Raiders in the Big 12 tournament semifinals. Chris, to your point about what you mentioned, Juwan Roberts, whether he plays or not, in a halftime of this game, I don't think he warmed up according to the people that were there at the arena. And then last second, it seemed like they just turned out to start the second half. So yeah, absolutely. Until the clock starts and they have 5 on the court, you never really know with Houston and what they choose to do when it comes to player personnel, when it comes to their injuries. One of the players that I really want to touch on right now is Malik Wilson, because we talked about him all season long, and obviously the comfort level, the impact that he's had for this team really carved out a solid role for him. But in particular, I think the last few games, the importance that the role that he brings to the table for Houston, and the importance of playing that role has been made that much clearer for Houston. And one of the things that Kelvin Sampson has mentioned in the past that he really likes from his players is the length, and Malik Wilson has been showing it off over the course of the last few games. Thinking back against TCU, the blocks that he had 3 total blocks, and obviously, of course, with the LeBron-esque block that he had, but he's just became a defensive anchor, like I mentioned, that 4-guard lineup that is really locking down opposing teams. He's a big reason for that, and he's starting to produce. He seems more comfortable offensively. Obviously, if he has a shot, he's going to shoot it. He had a tough luck where it looked like he was going to make a 3, and it literally rolled in. It halfway went in and popped out, which is just bad luck. But I can't talk about how good he has been for this Houston Cougars team this season. And he's just showcased it in this game against Texas Tech. Former team, by the way.
Yeah, good point there. Yeah, correct. Malik rebounded, got 6 boards today, so that helped out on the boards. You can see everything coming together for him. The defense has always been there. He's getting more confidence in his shot. He got a dunk. Thank you, Malik, instead of laying it up. But earlier in the season, we were like, man, is coach going to play Malik? Is he going to give him enough minutes? Is he going to do this? He doesn't seem to trust Malik. At some point around January or so, Coach Sampson started trusting Malik. He kept Malik. Remember, Dan, we talked about it. Malik would have a bad pass first part of the season, and be out of the game.
Yeah.
Conference play, bad pass. You're fine, Malik. You're going to stay in the game. All right, coach. He got more comfortable, and everything's starting to flow for him. And the 4-guard lineup with him in it, because he helps on the boards. So everything is just coming together for him. It's good to see.
Yeah, I think as the season goes on, his role crystallized within himself and within Coach Sampson, and he began to see what ways he needed to come ready to impact the game on a game in and game out basis. And I think he's focused on that, and he's done that starting with his defense, whether it be getting steals, whether it be getting blocks like Andy is mentioning, and also being active in the rebounds. I mean, he got a very impressive offensive rebound putback dunk, which shows his athleticism. And then you see his aggressiveness going after defensive rebounds. And so I think him knowing what his role is and now being a star in that role and knowing the way that this team needs him to come in and impact the game every game when he comes in, I think that has helped him to settle in, to be able to focus on that and do those things well. And then offensively, just kind of let the game come to himself. I mean, he takes his wide open shots, got a mid-range jumper. When he catches it inside, he's aggressive to score, use athleticism, and he knocked down that corner 3. I think he's a much better corner 3-point shooter than he is anywhere else in regards of shooting threes. But his mid-range game, I just like the focus and like the comfort level that he's playing with right now.
Excellent point. And we got a Ron Elvin commercial today, man. I'm kind of looking forward to it.
Not today, Chris.
No. Okay.
I was gonna bring up this comment. It's a great point by E.I. Crabtree 77. He said Malik Wilson played 32 minutes in this game. Obviously played very well. The coaching staff must have a lot of confidence in him. But that's key for numerous reasons. But when you look at the minutes total specifically, again, Jamal Shead 33 minutes, LJ Cryer 35 minutes, Javier Francis 29 minutes, Emmanuel Sharp 37 minutes, Malik Wilson 31. Some of it had to do because they just at one point they had 6 bodies because Cedric Lott was also in foul trouble for a little bit during the stretch. But keeping Jamal Shead's minutes down on this tournament, which 33 minutes is down considering that he has been playing 38, 39, 40 minutes towards the end of the regular season of a couple games. But that's big just for that standpoint factor that it buys time to give Cryer and Shed specifically rest throughout the game.
And I see BBZ's comment during Texas Tech's comeback. I think they had a 13-0 run as well. Part of that was twofold. They started doing some things differently. They even slipped some of the traps the Cougs had out high and rolled to the hoop. But also part of it, during that, I think LJ and Emmanuel missed open looks. They had good shots. There weren't too many shots the Cougs took in the first half or the game overall that were bad shots. They didn't force anything. They just missed in the first half. But you saw the difference. Second half, I think at one point they were 12 for 16 from the floor. Cryer had made 2 threes. Sharp had made 2 threes. You see the difference, how Houston's offense looks. It's funny how the offense looks, as Coach Sampson tells us, and anybody who's willing to listen to him, offense looks great when the shots go in. ESPN guys were saying at halftime, can Houston score enough to make a deep run? Yeah. The second half proved it. Yeah. If Emmanuel and LJ are knocking down threes, they sure as hell can. Yeah.
And they've shown the ability to win different games, whether it's high scoring, whether it's low scoring. And so it's hard to gauge what style or what ways fits them best. Although they're such a good defensive team, I think this team can really excel in an up-tempo game, in a high-scoring game, especially if their guards are making shots. And so, they can beat you in a plethora of ways. And then when you have the likes of Jamal Shed, someone who understands time, possession, and time and possession of each possession, each game, and the understanding of the game. You're going to be in every game, but he understands the importance of game possession, when to be aggressive, when to take shots, and just has his pulse on this game. And so this team can win in different ways. And I think Damian is going to be a key piece, especially going forward with Jaywan, assuming he won't be 100%, especially just looking forward to this next game. If he doesn't play, I assume Damian probably will start. That way Malik can stay in his 6-man role, still can come in and facilitate the things that he's been doing well that we mentioned.
And, BB's saying scoring 60 isn't enough. It is if the opponent scores 59.
Right.
That's all that matters.
Opponents haven't been able to score.
Right.
I would say they probably average 55 against Houston.
And I'm not trying to be flippant with it. I understand what everybody's saying. One of my buddies last night at the Rockets was talking about, can they score enough? I get what you're saying, but the other team has to score on them. And not many teams can do that. Okay? UConn probably could. I'm not sure Purdue could outside of Zach Edey. You know what I'm saying?
I think that might be a good matchup for Houston, playing
But
against Zach Edey.
The Cougs defense, as long as it's constant and elite, and we have no reason to believe that it won't be, the making shots is gravy. If the Cougs, what did they shoot overall today? Overall, 49.2% for the game, 61% in the second half. If the Cougs shoot 45% plus for a game, it's going to be very hard to beat them if they shoot that well. 45, heck, 42 plus. It's going to be hard for teams to beat them, especially if they're making threes. That's all I'm saying. The defense is a constant.
And this team and Jamal, they have a will to win. You just look at the games, whether it's from Oklahoma to Baylor, where teams were making shots and they were in high-scoring games. Houston found a way to win, and that's just having a mark to win. If you need to score, then you conjure up those points, whether Jamal gets it started or Emmanuel, whoever it is. I got faith, and I've seen it so far this season as evidence that this team can beat you in a plethora of ways. But if it's a low-scoring game, the defense, they're still going to play as hard if their other team is making shots. And that I would just put more emphasis on them to execute and make shots on the offensive end. And they've shown the ability to do that, especially in moments when they need them. Look at today when Tech made their run. It was Damian who came in at the time and kind of got things going and hit the shots. And so whoever it will be, I think this team will have that player step up and Coach Sampson and put them in a position to do so.
And Coach has said it a few times. Deion said it right there again. This team is just finding different ways to win. Because I could be critical of UConn when I say they scored 95 today. They sure did. They gave up 90
Up a lot.
to St. John's. St. John's. Weeks ago, St. John's head coach blasted his whole team publicly, undressed all of them. They scored 90 against UConn. Okay, what I'm saying? So, folks, matchups, it's about matchups. And again, I hammer it. It's a one-game thing. All the Cougs got to do against UConn is outscore them by 1 point. Whether it's 51-50 or 86-85, that's all they got to do. And they can win either way. Low scoring, high scoring. They proved that this season.
And to add on to both of your points, with the fact that their defense is non-negotiable and it's something that they can count on night in and night out, they're never really going to be out of a game. Just think of this season when they played Kansas. Like, that was one of their offensive games where they couldn't buy a basket. And when LJ Cryer got hot and started hitting a couple shots, they were right. They were a shot or two away getting within 5 in a game where they really struggled offensively. In a game that Kansas was hot, they were red hot themselves. And think back a couple years ago in that Elite 8 game against Villanova, when Houston only scored 44 points and they were within striking distance. They were almost tied with Villanova the entire game. That is a testament to what Houston's identity has always been in consistently throughout Kelvin Sampson. And that's why every game, for the most part, they're never really out of it. There's always a chance for them to win. Like you said, like both of you guys have said, this team has found ways to win in many different ways, not just, with some teams it's kind of formulaic in a sense where, they got to follow a certain game plan for them to be able to win. That hasn't been the case with Houston, and there's very few teams that can say that.
And this team leads the country in 10-0 runs. That's a huge stat that the broadcast team mentioned a lot. And I forgot the number that they have, but they did say that they lead the country in 10-0 runs.
36 now, I think. 36.
30, right. And
they
so
did 2 in the second half today.
Yeah, and that's a good thing for Houston, because watching the game is oftentimes where they're able to stop you from scoring. But if they make their shots and go on a 10-0 run, either they can get them back in the game or help them pull away. And so the confidence level is there, man. I mean, Chris said it, and he just said it. It's fine. Teams find different ways to win. They have a will to win as well.
And that's part of it as well, the will to win. Matchups, there may be some teams, Coach Sampson has said it during media calls. Certain teams, because their length, their size up front, cause Houston problems, their matchup problems. But you know what? The Cougs still find ways to win that game. Okay? The team, especially injured and banged up right now, they don't have the depth up front. So a team that's deep up front will give Houston problems in a one-game scenario. Does not mean that team's going to win the game, though, because Houston continues to find ways to win. We could probably pick a team from every conference, especially power conference, that is a bad matchup for Houston. But in a one-game situation, I presented to our fans, even if it's a bad matchup, are you still saying you doubt Coach Sampson to get that win? I bet you most folks, nope, I'm still picking Coach Sampson. That's all I'm saying. They have a shot.
Chris, they want to kind of follow up on that. What would you guys say? What is the biggest issue that Houston faces? What is a bad matchup for this Houston team? Is it length?
Length and guards who can score. Explosive guards. Multiple guards. Got to have more than one. Because they can stop one. But you got 2 and height and length, that's a problem.
For me, it's more of having, like Chris saying, multiple guards that can score. I think they can win with playing against taller teams, or because the length is going to be there in regards to Houston. But I think with going against taller teams where they lose the rebounding battle, they still can conjure up ways to win games. So for me, it's facing teams with explosive guards, multiple guards who can score. Just thinking back to Miami, I mean, you got to have those type of guards to be able to beat Houston, and I think that's just all the ways from all long as I can remember from Coach Sampson losses. Each team has either had one or two guards that can really go off and kind of carry a team.
You know, I like UConn. I like their balance backcourt and front court. Tristan Newton, I think I told Andy a couple years ago, back when Tristan was at ECU, he looks like a Cougar if you went in the transfer portal.
I remember that.
And he transferred to UConn instead. But yeah, Castle, the bigs up front, clinging, those guys, they got versatility. That'd be a fun matchup. I hope to see it because chances are that'd be in championship game. And then who knows? Jamal Shead in a one-game scenario, take my man's word for it, put it out there in the universe, Jamal Shead could carry the Cougs to beat UConn. Whatever it takes. If it's blocking and clinging shot on the putback, whatever it is, or going for 30, he could get it done in that one-game scenario. Yep.
Facts. Big facts.
Yeah, Crabtree 77 says this Houston team is special. He doesn't really see a matchup they can handle.
Same.
Mark Minatrea, hopefully
yep.
I didn't butcher your last name, joining us from X, formerly known as Twitter. He said UConn would be the only team favored against UH on a neutral floor, but it wouldn't be by much. And yeah, Crabtree 77 also inputted UConn is right there with them though. So I think if we look at the resumes for the season, top to bottom, I think it's clear that Houston and UConn have kind of separated themselves a little bit. Purdue not too far behind, but like you've been mentioning over the course of the last handful of shows, Chris, the NCAA tournament, one and done. So all it takes is one performance, one lights out run, and it could be the end of brackets. That's what makes March so maddening, the madness of March. Real quickly, we're going to hear from Kelvin Sampson and the players that they had post-game on the other side of this break. But, of course, we'd like to say thank you to Steve Saxenian for being the primary sponsor of today's episode of Let's Rage Coogs. Not only of this episode, but he has been the primary sponsor of every single men's basketball post-game show for the 2023-24 season. We also like to say thank you to Jennifer and Mike Pittman with Star Pizza for being a sponsor on today's episode of Star Pizza, or on today's episode of Let's Rage Coogs. Thank you to Star Pizza with 3 locations across the Houston area. Star Pizza is your go-to spot before or after the game. And like we mentioned, if you do go on Tuesday for their lunchtime all-you-can-eat buffet, Chris can attest to it. It is definitely worth the price. And you can get a red velvet cupcake, Houston Cougar red velvet cupcakes, if you go as well. So like I mentioned, Star Pizza is your go-to stop before or after the game. Of course, we also like to say thank you to Vincent Harding for being the sponsor of the ticker at the bottom of the screen for today's episode. And we like to thank each and every single one of you guys that are taking the time out of your night to watch us live on X, YouTube, or if you're listening to us after audio only or catching the replay on any of those platforms, thank you as well. And we are open for business, to quote the Big 12 commissioner, Brett Yormark, as well. If you're interested in being a sponsor on future Let's Rage Coogs show, not only for the remainder of the championship game tomorrow and the NCAA tournament, but next season, like I said, Let's Rage Coogs, we are the original Houston postgame show after each and every single football and men's basketball shows. So be sure to reach out to us, Let's Rage Coogs at gmail.com. And on that note, let's hear
Andy, real quick, before you play the clip, I want to answer John's question. Pop Isaac scored 6. He was 2 for 13 from the floor today. Just 6 points.
On that note, let's hear what Kelvin Sampson had to say.
Okay, Houston coach Kelvin Sampson is here along with LJ Choir and Emmanuel Sharp. Coach, I've got my phone on silent. When you're comfortable, please start us with some general comments about the game.
Yeah, there's, both teams just dealing with a ton of injuries. we all have our share of injuries. I don't know that we ever talk about it or worry about it. You're either going to win or lose. I mean, I don't get why you need to talk about it a lot. I mean, as long as we have a chance to put 5 on the floor and we've got a sub or two, you just keep playing. What's the worst thing can happen to you? People act like if you lose, they're going to put you in jail or you're going to get some kind of penalty. I mean, I just never looked at it quite like that. But I thought we got off to a great start. Then our line of scrimmage on our pick and roll defense wasn't what I expect. We had some guys that I thought let off the accelerator a little bit. We needed to get some adjustments made that I know how to make, for lack of a better explanation. And once we got them together, we felt like we could get into the paint. Once we got into the paint, we got good shooters. We got guys that can make shots. I thought LJ was aggressive from the get-go today, except for the 15-foot runners he was shooting from 8 feet on the baseline. Oh, yeah, it took you a while to get that one, didn't you? Yeah. And then Emmanuel, who is you just never know. He's a box of Cracker Jacks. You just never know what you're going to get with Emmanuel. When they're flying at him, I like his chances. Some of the other stuff, it drives me nuts, but I love them all, so that's kind of, it's good to get in the championship game. We'll go from here.
Okay, remember to raise your hand if you've got a question. Give us your name and affiliation. Let's start here on the left on the front row.
Joseph Duarte, Houston Chronicle. Kelvin, with that said on injuries, do you have an update on Jaywan? And then the 2 times that he went into the game, was that just to sort of feel it out to see where he was with it?
Yeah, pretty much. I don't have an update. It's not his knee. It's the knees bothered him all year, but it's not that. It's kind of around his calf, shin area. So, but I don't know. I mean, we just won a game, man. I don't run around there and ask what the injury report is after we win. I kind of get excited about that. I mean, dang, Joseph, why don't you just throw some water on the fire? Can we not enjoy the win?
Okay, let's go to the third row over on the left, and then we'll come back to the front row over here.
David Smale, Field Level Media. First for LJ, your thoughts about possibly playing Baylor in the final?
I mean, well, it doesn't really matter who we play. We're happy to be in the championship, and we're looking forward to whatever the matchup is.
Prefer to face a team like yourselves in Iowa State?
I don't care who we play. Doesn't matter. It's going to be a really good team. Those are 2 really, really good teams. And if you're in the championship game of any tournament, you're going to have to play a really good team. But we've played them both here recently. So I think who we're going to have available is more important than who we're playing at this point.
Okay, let's go to the front row on the right.
Ryan Monso, GoCougs.com. Emmanuel, at the end of the game, you had a chance to shoot it, but you found said lot. Tell me about that.
I mean, I've had opportunities all year to score. I mean, it means more to him than to me at the end of the game. So, when I get in situations like that, towards the end of the game, I'd rather look for maybe like Ryo or Said, who haven't had that many buckets all year, so they can get a chance to score.
Let's go to the third row.
Tim Kalishaw, Dallas Morning News. Kelvin, you're 30-3. Some people thought Houston might not keep winning 30 games when it switched conferences. What do you think this team, you've obviously got more games to go too to add to it. What do you think this team has demonstrated?
You know, Tim, while everybody was talking about the Big 12, and our local media, who's just been awesome the entire time I've been at Houston, I never really thought about the Big 12, not because I'd coached in it 12 years or I've been in this tournament 12 times, is that I was really worried about this team because of who we lost from last year's team. I think I spent more time, June, July, August. In August, we were in Australia for 10 days. And that was the timing of that trip is never a bad time, but this year especially, because of who we had to replace. The number 8 pick in Jarris Walker, the number 25 pick in Marcus Sasser. Somebody that's really solid for us the entire year, started every game, Tremont Mark. And then my security blanket, a kid that I absolutely loved and still miss, who passed away, Reggie Cheney. So missing those 4 guys, I think superseded moving to a new league. I just never worried about it or never thought about it. We just kind of rolled up our sleeves, Tim, and got in the gym and just went to work. And, Jamal Shedd was, and I hate to be repetitive, but Jamal Shedd, when we beat Illinois, who was the Big Ten champ, he was a starting point guard on that team. Then we turned around and beat Arizona, who was the Pac-12 champ. He was the point guard on that team, went to the Elite Eight. LJ played on a team that won a national championship. Emmanuel backed up a team that won 30, I don't remember how many games we won last year, but 30-some, and he played a lot of minutes. So I knew we had a good team coming back in any league, but it was just a matter of, could I get them together? Could I get them to play for something bigger than themselves? Could we be a team? And that's something that we've always taken pride in, is getting our kids to be a team. LJ had to learn how to do that. They all have reasons why they want to come to Houston, but eventually you've got to. Everybody's got a scrapbook, man. I'm not interested in your scrapbook. Everybody's got an ego. Everybody's got that, but I don't care about any of that. If you come play for us, you're going to do it our way. There's non-negotiables. There's things that we're not going to sit around and discuss. This is the way it's going to be done. And I think if you have high-character kids, it's a lot easier for them. They handle adversity better. Low-character kids have a hard time with adversity. They're usually immature, and those are the kind of kids that struggle with when things don't go their way. LJ has some tough days. Emmanuel has for 2 years. They all did, but they all came together and became a really good team, and this is the end result. But we just played the team that was in front of us. It didn't really matter to us what league we were in. We kept getting bombarded about the Big 12, and we just worried about getting our team together.
Okay, let's go to the 4th row on the right side.
Cougars head coach Kelvin Sampson, and you heard LJ Choir as well over the course of the clip. So, Chris Dayon, obviously that soundbite to end, no stranger to us, but obviously for Kelvin Sampson, it's his way or no way under the Houston Cougars program. But he talked about a couple of things. One, no surprise, he couldn't care less about whether they play Iowa State or Baylor. And then when they asked him about Jawan Roberts, he kind of gave a little bit of a tough time to Joseph Duarte, but didn't necessarily commit one way or the other about his status. Said the game just ended, so didn't give any specific further update. Since then, it seems like Jawan Roberts wants to play, undecided if he will play. Like you said, Chris, if John Houston and Kelvin Sampson feel like he's good to go and he's not going to put him at risk when it comes to his well-being and health, he's going to play, and if not, he won't, and they'll go and they'll still try to win the game.
Exactly. Juan told the media there he's going to, do the treatment. He's going to give it a go, and we'll see what happens tomorrow. But, I want to address this to BBZ. No worries about, your questions, critique here on LRC, as long as it's not personal shots, you can ask. You can have a different opinion. That's the beauty of the show. So we'll give our answer back to you, and it's all we're all family here. This is not we're no better than you guys. We have different insight than you guys. We cover the Cougs, more media availabilities, whatever. But we're all alums. We believe that Cougar Red, and one day when it finally happens and the Cougs win the national championship, you're going to see all of us act ignorant, and celebrate just like you guys, because we want that day to happen. But Coach Sampson, I think, Dan, I'm not sure about you, Dan, but I know Coach Sampson has cut my head a few times on questions. He has Andy too. It's just part of what it is,
Literally
man.
cut my head.
You cover Coach Sampson long enough, he'll get you. He's going to take a crack at you. You just roll with it, keep on moving. That's all you can do.
At the same time, he gave credit to how good the local media show has been. So it was kind of him, I think, just giving Joseph a hard time more than anything. But it was a lot to kind of take away from what he said. And this team really just kind of reemphasizing some of the things that we said and finding ways to win and having LJ and Emmanuel make shots and putting them in position to make shots and have the floor space. So I think just kind of him, the way he sees the game, the way he allows each game to kind of tell its own story, and really makes him a great coach, because a lot of times coaches just stick to certain players and just not allowing the game to kind of dictate what happens. And Coach Sampson is a master at that.
One thing,
Andy, go ahead, man. He's cut your hair. He commented on you a few times too.
Oh, literally, when it comes to my hair, about it. No, the one thing I was gonna say, and it kind of touches with his comment about Juwan Roberts, and this is some really mostly from fans that I saw, a minority online, on X, again formerly as Twitter, but from an outside perspective, from a fan perspective, I get the argument about, they should shut down Juwan Roberts if he's not healthy. Like, why some people were asking, why were they playing? They shouldn't have even been playing in the conference tournament. That's never going to be the case under Kelvin Sampson. His philosophy, if they're keeping score, and he said this multiple times for the past several years, Chris, I'm sure you've heard it many more times than we have, but if they're keeping score, the objective for Houston, for Kelvin Sampson, is to win the game. And like you said, if John Houston gives a green light and it's not going to be a risk for Juwan Roberts' health, he's going to play, and they're never going to take into account Kelvin Sampson. I don't think his philosophy will allow him to kind of, let me not put my best foot forward and look ahead. I don't think it's in Kelvin Sampson's DNA. That's never going to happen under him.
I mean, he truly takes it one game at a time. But Coach Sampson said what Dayon touched on, they did. Tried it out Juwan early second half to see what he had, see what he could do.
And he kind of said that.
Yeah.
A little bit.
And that brief time he was in the game, he scored, got the low post looks, got double teamed, kicked out to Emmanuel Sharp for a 3-pointer, and then the offense just seemed to flow from that point on. And then he went to the bench, get more treatment, started, and the offense still kept rolling.
Yes, I think with J1, they're going to take a rest approach, rehab it or treat it, see how he feels, and let him warm up. They can just kind of see where he got. I mean, but I think they will keep in mind that there's more to come in regards to after this game, in the championship game in the Big 12 tournament. But, I mean, no worries there. Like we said earlier in the show, whether he plays or not, I still think Houston will be in a position to win the game and to compete in the game. And so I'm excited. I mean, I like this team. I like the points that he talked about where Jamal has played on 3 different teams who had a high level of success and beat high-level teams. So it's no surprise with him at the helm, the experience he's been in and how they've helped prepare him to put the team kind of, I don't want to say on his back, but in his hands, to allow them to kind of control the team and allow him experience to make him make the best decisions on the court and get his teammates in the best position, because a lot of these plays, he just kind of spoon-fed Javier, and all he had to do was just finish. And so some of the plays he makes and passes he makes, whether it's to LJ or to Emmanuel, they're literally right on the money, and all they have to do is just let it go or just finish. And so, I mean, Jamal has been spectacular with everything he's done this season, from his ability to score 29 or ability to have a double-double like he did today, but taking care of the ball and creating and causing havoc on the defensive end is what this team is known for.
Let's talk about this from John. John, add more to it. What did Master P say about NIL? Was he speaking positively that it won't be an issue once Mercy gets to Houston, or was it a point you think it was a cause for concern? You know, just add to it. I think Mercy's wanted to be here, and he's one of those.
He's been committed for years.
He's been committed for years, so he's kind of rare.
I remember his freshman year. I remember seeing him at a Houston game way before he was even on the radar.
Yeah,
in regards to like recruiting.
Coach Sampson told that story. He was at Mercy's on a team, AU team, playing at, what is it, MI3, the gym in Humble, I think. And that's when he first saw him. And at that point, as you say, Dan, he was under the radar. No one knew who he was. But as Coach Sampson says, most of us, you know, and Chris Budden's hearing over and over again, and Chris says it during the broadcast, how Houston evaluates. We don't recruit. So Coach Sampson saw something in Mercy way back when. Yeah, that's a kid that day. That's a Cougar right there. That's a future Cougar. You can work on getting him. And he got him committed early. And then after the fact, he started blowing up. And Mercy has been true to his word so far. No, I'm good. I'm a Cougar, baby. I'm good. Y'all can, whatever. I'm good. That's a lot of the guys Houston that signed out of high school, they got early. And then those kids blew up on a national level. And most of them said, y'all too late. Houston been talking to me since I was a sophomore. Where were y'all? Y'all wait until it's too late. I'm going to be a Coug. Time and time again. That's how Houston recruits. Evaluates.
Even today during the broadcast when they were talking about Jamal Shed, and they were talking about where he would have gone had he not committed to Houston, and he mentioned Colorado State potentially as a second option, which, I mean, I don't want to throw Colorado State under the bus, but it kind of reminds, like, Colorado State, like, you don't think of them in terms of like the big programs, the Power 5 programs, and then it lets you think again. You're like, yeah, Jamal Shed, he's at the level where he's at because he's developed at Houston. That's all testament to what the coaching staff has done with him here with the Cougars, where obviously he's the Big 12 player of the year, the Big 12 defensive player of the year. He's going to be on all the All-American teams this season. But that's a testament to your point, Chris, where Houston does its homework, and like it's been reiterated over the course of the broadcast of the last two games. They don't, the way they phrase it, they don't recruit, they evaluate players that are right fits. And even in that clip right there that Kelvin talked about, when it comes to finding kids that are high character and that are going to be able to handle being coached by Kelvin Sampson, like you said yesterday, it's not for everyone. And it requires a certain level of maturity and some time to be able to be coached by Kelvin Sampson in this Houston program.
Dan and Andy, I thought about this during the game. I think Houston is becoming known for developing bigs almost as well as it becoming known for developing the guard/wings. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think they're a development factory regardless of the position. I think you could develop front court, back court. It doesn't matter. I agree with you 100%, but I think they've shown and they've proved that they can develop you regardless of position. 100%.
Yeah,
and I was just kind of, I was just saying, I was thinking about how they mentioned that preseason, Jamal wasn't even on the preseason Big 12 conference team. He was in an honorable mention. You see where he finished now. And just thinking about all the work that he put in and the development that he put in. And he said at his own mouth, he was uncertain if he could play at the D1 level coming out of high school, and Houston kind of helped help build his confidence and make him confident that he could. And that's why he stuck with Houston. And so Houston is a program I think is on the rise and will have their pick of the litter in regards to being able to evaluate and get which player that they want. But I do not think that Houston ever turns into a one and done program, but I think they will recruit a player with a high level of talent of caliber one and done, i.e. Jarris Walker, depending on the need at a position.
Agreed.
Again, it's all about fit. They have to have the right mindset, which Kelvin said multiple times over the course of last season about Jarris. He fit that mindset for them when they evaluated him, which is why he ended up being a Cougar. Real quickly, I do want to Scott's comment, and I'll go to E. Crabtree. No particular reason. I just feel like it's odd to just say X. It's a change. It's subtle. Gotta make sure I
Let's
clarify.
go ahead and say Musk. Come on.
Chris says Musk.
You guys are the only two people that I know that refer to anything other than Twitter.
So no particular reason. Crabtree says, again, going back to Kelvin Sampson's comments, acknowledge his in-game adjustments and Houston settled in the game in that second half. The players trust coach and they're a great team this year after all replacements from last year. And there's a great point too that Kelvin Sampson has mentioned in the past. The players are attracted to Houston. They're attracted to the coaches that are going to be developed here. And it's not necessarily all the case where in this day and age where sometimes when players hit the transfer portal, it's about, NIL and different aspects as well in terms of branding from the program, who can get them a lot more money and stuff like that. For Houston, it's from that development aspect. And I think you look at the transfer that they landed this year, you can see that in Quire and Damian Dunn.
And part of it, Coach Sampson has said a few times, and I think he'll say it more in the future, the Cougs are not going to, put NIL out there for high school kids to get them to come to Houston. But once you come to Houston, NIL, they'll do their part to make sure you get your part of NIL. That's how he chooses to do it, But they're not going to offer the bag to these high school kids because some of those kids, they just want the bag. They don't want to be coached hard. They don't want to. Yeah, coach. How much you going to offer me? Coach Sampson's like, no, you're not for us, young man. And he's mentioned that on Zoom calls. Hey, we moved on from kids because they wanted so much money. We're not going to pay that young man, and moved on. But the kid still keeps Houston in his final 3 or final 4 for the recruiting purposes. But that kid wasn't going to come here. And some of y'all who follow recruiting in depth know who I'm referring to about one of them specifically this year. But I just like the fact that Houston is now nationally relevant. And just imagine being in the Big 12, more games on ESPN, ESPN2, the top talented kids, they can see, wow, you see what Houston's doing? And they can decide for themselves, I think I can play for Coach Sampson. And you might see more and more of those top talents. I'm coming to Houston. Coach Sampson is working his magic with 2 stars, 3 stars, and developing them into 4-star players. If Dayon is right and the Cougs get a 5-star who decides to stay for 2 years, not be one and done, but for 2 years, who knows how good this team could be?
Real quickly, this is a final score. Bit of an upset. Oregon defeats Arizona in the Pac-12 tournament, 67-59. So look at that. Arizona down. Tennessee lost earlier today. So I think, going back to your point yesterday, Chris, I think that locks North Carolina for that final 1 seed. I think it's clear to say now, Houston, UConn, Purdue, North Carolina. Those are going to be the 1 seeds in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, I think so. And, I said that yesterday about Carolina. Maybe Tennessee had their last bad game. We'll see, but all goes back to it. It's tournament time. Upsets happen. We just hope, from the Cougar perspective, the Cougars are not one of those upset victims. And this is the year that the Houston Cougars, I don't know who's, since Jim Nance retired, who is going to be on the main broadcast to say, and Kelvin Sampson, head coach Kelvin Sampson, got that cherry on top of the cake on the Sunday, his first national championship. Who's going to say that, Dayon? Who's on the call? I know who's on the call.
Ian Eagle.
Well, if Bird's on the call, I look forward to it. Works for me. It's going to happen. It's going to happen.
And Coach Sampson said, it don't matter who we play. It's about who we have available.
That's like it.
They're ready to go to war. It's just about which troops he got that's going to be ready to battle.
3:30 mark in the first half. Iowa State has a 9-point lead, 31-22 over Baylor in that game. So obviously he's going to play the winner of those. That being said, we're going to start winding things down on this episode of Let's Rage Coogs, presented by the Saxenian Family. Big thank you to Steve Saxenian, to Star Pizza as well, Mike and Jennifer Pittman, and of course Vincent Harding for being sponsored on today's episode of Let's Rage Coogs. Once again, the final score in the Big 12 semifinals game: Houston defeats Texas Tech 82-59. LJ Cryer led the way in scoring with 20 points with 6-11 from behind the arc. Emmanuel Sharp had 17 points. He himself was 4 for 8 from behind the arc. Jamal Shedd had 12 points, 10 assists. And Javier Francis had 12 points, was 1 rebound shy of a double-double in his own right. He finished with 9 rebounds as well. Chris, I'll toss it over to you first. Any final thoughts, and where can people find you as well?
Thank you, as always, Andy and Dayon, for another great edition of Let's Rage Coogs. Iowa State, I forgot what they call it. What is it? Kansas City T-Mobile Center, is Hilton South or whatever. That's fine if they beat Baylor and face the Cougs tomorrow. Okay, but I know that there are a lot of Houston alums in Kansas City, and they're doing their part to take over the center, the arena. So that's good. That's a plus. But follow me on the platforms: Houston Roundbar Review on YouTube, on Instagram and Threads and Spoutable and TikTok, as long as TikTok is still around here in America. But as always, thank you everyone for your comments, taking time out of your schedule to talk Cougs with us on Let's Rage Cougs. And I look forward to talking with you guys tomorrow. And as always remember this: since 1994, BBZ, yes, I'm that old, the Houston Roundbar Review, local name, global perspective.
And of course, you can find me on all social media platforms at Dayon Dunlap. Like Chris just said, it's always a pleasure having another great episode of Let's Rage Coogs. Our numbers are steadily climbing more and more and more. And so be sure to contact us if you guys are interested in being a sponsor during the show. I mean, all the comments, all the viewers taking the time out this Friday could be anywhere, but you're here with us talking and raging about these Cougs and our dominant men's basketball team. And so let's tune in for the next game and get this Big 12 championship and get ready for the big dance. And as always, baby, go Cougs.